In Los Angeles, the Lakers, their owners, their executives have always sort of rolled their eyes at the Clippers. Clippers make big promises. They have great nicknames, Lob City. But make no mistake, it's a Lakers city, and Crypto.com Arena is the Lakers building. Last night, though, was a moment. The Clippers 2-2 with Dallas at home. Luka, rising star. They have the veteran players rising to seize Los Angeles. And it was the perfect Clipper playoff superfecta. Paul George couldn't shoot. Westbrook, Harden no-showed. Kawhi not available. Paul George said, yeah, this isn't who we are. Unfortunately, it's exactly who you are. The Clipper stars, 22% from the field, 8 for 36. Had more turnovers than baskets. It was a disaster. And this is why for years, you know, the Lakers executives, Jeannie Buss, the Buss family have sort of rolled their eyes. They got a shiny new arena coming. Again, Paul George and Kawhi, they're going to dominate the city and cross town. You know, the Lakers, AD and LeBron get to conference finals. They win an NBA championship. And there's always been kind of a weird desperation with the little brother, like the Jets or the Mets or the Clippers or the White Sox. There's a desperation, right? Like, going to take a big swing, which I'm not opposed to, but Kawhi Leonard has missed 41% of his games as a Clipper, and they re-signed him. And the city is just, right now, you got the Ohtani mess with the Dodgers. LeBron, Lakers are out of the playoffs. You know, USC football, not quite what we think. The Chargers had to go get a new coach. Los Angeles is ready to be seized. Clippers have a shiny new arena. Kawhi's not available, and the rest of the guys stink. And I just think for years, it's the classic, you know, little brother syndrome. I've seen it with the Mets, where they reach, or the Jets, where they reach. And I've seen it with the Clippers. They're just trying too hard. But last night there was a time when the Lakers only made the playoffs 2 times in 8 years. I mean, the city was wide open. And the Clippers made the playoffs 7 times in 8 years. It was like, here's your moment. Just like when Michigan football was down and Michigan State could have seized it. And in the end, they didn't. And last night, the Clippers, they didn't. They've had their opportunities. They have had their opportunities in the last 10 to 12 years. And Steve Ballmer's the richest owner in the NBA. And they've got a brilliant new arena. But this is Los Angeles. Making the playoffs is not enough. Having a really cool movie poster is not enough. The movie's got to be good. And with the Clippers, so often the poster's great, the movie isn't. And last night was a complete and utter dud. And Paul George was the best of their 4 stars, I guess. You know, Kyrie Irving was amazing, spectacular. And Luka hobbling around was good, too. It goes back to Dallas. Clippers could certainly win. It's been a weird series and a really fun series. But, man, last night was there for the taking. It's not that they lost. It's that they weren't competitive. They had no self-awareness. And that leads me to the next story, because you can't blame Ty Lue on that, is that one of the reasons that Fox News has been so successful, and there's talented people on all these cable networks, but is because the media has leaned left for so long, sometimes severely left, that there's a gaping hole in the coverage. There's a lot of conservative viewers in America, and Fox News sees those moderate to conservative viewers. The rest of the media largely was doing stuff moderate left. And one of the reasons TNT's basketball coverage, to me, is so much better than ESPN's, not blaming anybody, but it's such a pro-player league. The media is so soft. I've banged on this for years, is that Charles and Shaq, they're just the balance. Sometimes they're very pro-player. They love players, but at least they're the balance in it. And sure enough, the Lakers lose, and it's immediately Darvin Ham is the reason. Well, you know how this works, right? There's a reason the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Lakers have megastars in this league, and they're running through coaches. Each have had 3 and 6 years. Because the megastars complain to their agent leaks to willing media, coaches lost the locker room. That's always the de facto, the default end statement. Well, Frank Vogel, Darvin Ham, they have lost the locker room. And the agent of the star calls the willing media, reports it. it circulates and all of a sudden gets momentum. It's an avalanche, and a guy like Frank Vogel's out of work. And Charles Barkley last night had enough. I've been saying this about Darvin Ham. The fact that they led the Nuggets 70% of the time, and Denver's easily the best team in the league, is amazing. Rui no-showed a couple games. D'Lo no-showed. Reeves is being asked on some nights offensively to be the number 2 because Anthony Davis is so great defensively and has such a burden to guard Jokic that he spends so much of his energy. I'm not blaming AD. That's the reality. He's a great defensive player. He is so good on the defensive end that sometimes he didn't have any gas in the fourth quarter. So it's LeBron and Austin Reeves. You're not beating Porter, Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Jokic and KCP with that. Yet they led 70% of the series. I mean, Frank Vogel won a title in the bubble. Every other old team went man overboard, except the Lakers. Vogel galvanized them. They won a title. He got the back-to-back Eastern Conference championships with an Indiana roster that was Roy Hibbert, Paul George, and lawn chairs. Give me a break. He'd been bounced around the league, and he'll get blamed in Phoenix. They don't have a point guard in Phoenix. That's part of the problem. Frank Vogel, they had a big. Frank Vogel's good with bigs. They traded him. They don't have a point guard. Is that Frank Vogel's fault? He'll get blamed. Mike Budenholzer won a title, 2-time coach of the year, 2 organizations, doesn't have a job. By the way, how are the Bucks since Mike Budenholzer left? A bigger mess. Yet, Mike Malone in Denver. You know how long it took Mike Malone in Denver? The Nuggets missed the playoffs his first 3 years. Following that, there were 4 years of, Jokic can't win in the postseason. It was year 8 that Mike Malone finally won. So if you wonder why Mike Malone has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, he was told he was a bum for 7 years. I mean, the kid at Oklahoma City, Mark, is it Dagnall? He didn't do anything for the first 3 years. Like nothing. Couldn't make the playoffs. Everybody makes the playoffs. They were patient. Sam Presti, patient. This year, number 1 seed. Whether I agree with everything on Fox News, and I don't, if you've listened to my show for years, if you know where I'm politically, if you leave openings, consumers will move toward the openings if you provide something they like. TNT's not perfect, but there's a wide open space to be critical and defend coaches and occasionally critical of star players. It is not a coincidence that Lakers with a superstar, Bucks with a superstar, Sixers with a superstar are running through coaches. And it's always the coach lost the locker room. And the willing media is like, yeah, you thought Darvin Ham lost the locker room. Did you see how hard the Lakers played? They outplayed Denver, much more talented Denver. You can criticize Darvin Ham all you want. That team comes to play. Rui was awful a couple of games and early in the season, and D'Lo's D'Lo. But effort, losing the locker room is the team quits. Lakers never quit. They were just outmanned by a better team. So I don't want to hear Darvin Ham lost the locker room or Frank Vogel can't coach. You can sit. Here's another thing that people forget. Nick Nurse, a hell of a coach. But sometimes this is the reality. You get into a playoff game, the arena's loud, players can't all hear you. Hell, officials couldn't hear Nick Nurse call a timeout. It's not a perfect sport to coach. They're not wearing headsets like the NFL. They can't talk to the quarterback. Baseball stadiums are mostly quiet. You can do signals through the course of a baseball game. The third base coach. Sometimes in the NBA, stars listen, they don't hear. They do hear, the officials hear, they don't hear. It's not easy. These arenas are crazy time. But the constant ease in which the media just rips coaches, sends them packing. There's a reason Frank Vogel keeps getting jobs. People know he can coach. But the Darvin Ham stuff is, you got to give me a break on this. Lost the locker room. I watched that series. You know what I saw? Inconsistent players outside of LeBron. LeBron really the only offensive player you could depend on in the series. Austin Reeves on some nights had to be the 2 because AD's working so hard on the defensive end that he just doesn't have a lot left in the tank offensively in the fourth quarter. It's not lack of effort. Sometimes with Embiid late, it feels like lack of effort. AD's never lack of effort. And yeah, he got hurt with a stinger. He stayed in the game. He kept playing. But TNT provides balance. They're willing to be critical occasionally And I appreciate that. As a consumer of the NBA, I just appreciate it. And by the way, if TNT loses rights to the NBA, it's going to be a bidding war for those guys. It's going to be a bidding war for Charles and Shaq and Kenny and Ernie because they provide something the rest of the NBA media too often does not.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.